Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We have a third-party transforming figure review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Ocular Max Perfection Series PS-21 Medicus. This is their take on that masterpiece scale First Aid figure, and this is one of the figures that makes their version of that Defensor combiner. So before we get started here, I just do want to say that I picked this figure up from Big Bad Toy Store, and I want to do this unboxing because, hey, maybe not everybody gets to see this guy coming out of the box. But let's go ahead and get started with that. We're going to get this turntable out of the way. We're going to take a look at the box, and then we're going to get him cracked open. Now that we've got that turntable out of the way, let's go ahead and take a nice close-up look of this packaging. So right up top there you have, it's kind of hard to read, but it says Perfection Series, the Art of Transformation. And then you've got that artwork right there, all built in, which means that he will become that left arm without having any extra pieces or parts forming. So really cool. PS-21 Medicus, Dr. Ocular Max. Over here you have his profile along with some silhouettes in the background. Back here you have some product shots, which are really cool. Actually, they're just showing that step by step from that left arm down to the ambulance, down to the robot mode. Really cool. All built in logo. And then you have a little bio down here and some tech specs if you want to read it. And over here you got a close-up of that artwork. Up top you have PS-21 Medicus, and down low you have all this information if you care to read it. Unfortunately, I don't see a sad baby anywhere, and that makes me sad. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this box opened up and see what's inside of there. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box with Medicus, and we're going to start right over here with his instruction booklet. I want to show you something real cool with the instruction booklet first. Just thought this was a nice touch. They have the credits in there for design, sculpt, packaging, etc. So I think that's really cool. I like that they give credit where it's due on a nice little figure. Next up, we have your little red decoder that you can use with the box. So if you have your box handy, you can put your decoder right there, and you can read all those tech specs just like those original G1 Transformers. So very nice touch. Next up, you have his bio card. So we'll take a look here first at that artwork. Here's PS-21 Medicus, and then back here you have a little bit of a bio if you want to read it, and then you have his tech specs right there. Alright, and finally that brings us to our last accessory, the only true accessory that he has, and that is his pistol. He is kind of a pacifist, so this is all he has, and that's okay. It's really basic, nothing to get too worked up about. The only thing that it really does is it folds. You can do this for weapon storage. So, yeah, there you go. He's got a little pow-pow, I guess. I don't know. So that is it for everything that came inside the box except for Medicus himself. So let's bring him in and take a look at his details. Here he is. This is the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is the PS-21 Medicus. So let's bring him in and take a look at his details. And we'll start up here with his head. And that is a first aid head if I've ever seen a first aid head before, and I really like the color that they used for his visor. I think that just looks really cool. You've got nice sculpt work on that head. Even here on the side, everything looks good. On the back, it's fairly basic, but it's not awful at all. Coming on down to that chest, you've got some painted areas, you've got some molded areas. I think it all comes together looking pretty nice. He does have his wheel chest right there. And then coming down to the crotch, it's pretty basic. The crotch, the upper legs, not a lot going on here. And then coming down to those legs, it's open. So this is one thing that I will point out. This doesn't want to stay closed for me, so occasionally it'll pop out. It's just there to cover the hand up, and it's got a little spot, but you can see it just does that on me. So I'm not real happy about it, but it's not the end of the world by any means. So coming on down to those legs. Basically, it's just a big old side of that ambulance. And you've got some little toes sticking out. Talking about the insides of the legs, they do have that panel to cover up that hollow area, which I think is done very well. A little bit of a hollow area here, but that's just because of the way he transforms. I'm not sweating that at all. I think they've done a fine job. The engineering on this figure is actually really cool. And coming over here to the side, you have that ambulance, and he's got a little bit of a lean back. There we go. Coming up the side, he fills out pretty well. So his shoulders are a little funky. So the way that they're jointed, so if you have his arms up like that, you know, it fills it out a little bit more, but he does have this hinge here for transformation, and you certainly want to take advantage of it, but even then, it fills out pretty nicely. You can see the door there and everything that's going on. And taking him around and looking at him from the back, he's pretty good. My biggest issue is just going to be, you can see those exposed hands back here. Not bad at all. It's really not. And as I've stated in other reviews, if you're going to have a figure not look the greatest, having him not look the greatest from the back is probably the way to go. All right, so yeah, I think he nails it as far as that First Aid toy, that First Aid character look. I think he nails it pretty good, so I'm pretty impressed by the overall looks with this guy. So let's go ahead and dig into that articulation, and we're going to start right up here with the head. So the head, he's up as far as it'll go, unless you want to disconnect it for transformation, and then you can get quite a bit of up right there, but you can see you've got that spot where the neck is supposed to stay connected. So you've got that up, you've got that down, you have some side to side, and then you can go all the way around with the head. Now coming here to the shoulders, we just talked about this, but you have this hinge right here that'll allow it to come up. Without the use of this hinge, this is as high up as the arm goes, just on this joint right there. And then of course you can bring it down that far, and then you can go all the way around a full 360. Coming here to those elbows, you get nice deep elbow bend on those double joints, and then you have bicep rotation right there, so you can go all the way around. Coming down here to the hands, you can spin those hands all the way around if you want to, and then you have that thumb sitting on a ball joint, so you can move that thumb around any way you want to. And then you have individual, if I can get them there. Let's get those guys separated. There we go. Goodness gracious. These joints are tight. So trying to put that on display right there. You've got individual fingers just on that one main joint. They're not individually articulated beyond this main joint right there. But yeah, you do have all individual fingers right there. So very well done. And coming down to the waist, you have waist rotation and you have an ab crunch. So not bad at all. Now you can go more with the ab crunch, but it's going to pop out this transformation joint right here for the combiner mode. So just being prepared for that, you can take it out down another notch. But then when you bring him up, oh no, what is that? So that's his transformation joint for when he's in left arm mode. So you just got to shove that back in and then move on with life. If I can shove it back in there, there we go. So it comes out and it's very robust in its design. All right, so moving on to those legs. So move those hip skirts out of the way, maybe. There we go. You can get a nice full split out of Medicus. And bringing those legs back down, get those hip skirts out of the way. You can kick forward that far, which isn't a lot, but it gets the job done. And then this is an entire butt flap back here, so if you move the butt flap, you get a back kick of that much. And then you get thigh rotation, so you can go all the way around if you want to go all the way around there. Coming down to those knees, you get 90 degrees, which isn't bad. Always love to have more, but hey, considering what you're doing here at this knee, I think it's still pretty good. And then you can take advantage of the transformation joint right there for the combiner mode. So you can move that around a little bit if you want to as well. Coming on down to the feet. So the feet, you have ankle tilt. So you can go almost 90, or if not a full 90 right there. And then you can move the toe. Try to find you the best possible view here. So toe will go up that far. It will go down that far. And then you have this hinge right here where you can move the entire foot that much. And then you have your heel spur. So you can bring the heel spur down. You can bring the heel spur up. So you should be able to find a good way to get this guy balanced. One way or another, you should be able to get him set up. So he's going to hold most poses. Get that toe down. There we go. Yeah, so he's going to hold most poses for you, no problem. So yeah, I think articulation is really well done. It's a little weird in places, really with these shoulders, just because these hinges are a little bit looser than these shoulder hinges are. So whenever you try to raise those arms up, you're probably going to raise them at that hinge right there, in addition to this hinge. So, but everything else, I think he's done pretty well as far as articulation goes. So let's go ahead and talk about his one and only accessory and what you can do with it. It's not a lot, really. You have his gun, and it's a little different with the Mastermind Creations here than it is with some of the other third-party figures. So you do have this, you know, that L shape right there, and you just kind of plug it in right there, get the thumb out of the way. If you get the thumb out of the way properly. There we go. So you get the thumb in that shape right there. Take your L, put that in, and squeeze the hand. And there you go. So he's going to hold it nice and secure. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not my favorite design as far as having masterpiece scale figures hold weapons. I think some other companies do it better, but he does a pretty good job of it as well. He's not going to let go of it. So I think you're going to be in pretty good shape as far as that goes. But yeah, so that's the details, articulation, and the accessories, at least in bot mode. So let's go ahead and jump into transformation. We're going to put this guy into his alt mode first, and then we'll take him, we'll do everything in the alt mode as far as comparisons, details, that good stuff, and then we'll put him in his left arm mode after that. So let's go ahead and get Medicus into his ambulance mode, and to do that you're going to want to start right up here with these wheels. You're just going to apply a little bit of pressure and you're going to slide these wheels down. Alright, so you should have them looking something like that. Now we're going to work on these arms. So one thing that you'll note as I'm transforming, you'll see what I'm talking about here, but I have a little bit of a tolerance issue. But you're going to want your fists to be in this configuration. So you want those thumbs to be sitting back behind the rest of those fingers. And make sure you've got a nice balled up fist right there. So you're going to take this back panel, you're going to open this back panel up. Now one thing that I do before I go any further is use a tool. And in this case I'm just going to use this gun here. You have these panels on the front that need to come out. And it's easier for me to just stick something through there and then proactively pop that out, just to get this out of my way. So then I'm just going to have that flapped up like that. Then I'm going to take these fists, I'm going to fold them in. Now this is where I'm having the tolerance issue. So you see this tab right here and then this slot, and you see that my fist just will not go any further in. So when I close this, I'm either left with that gap, I can try to close it, but it's going to pop right back open on me. Thankfully this is not critical, and yes, it is the same on both arms for mine. So it's a little unfortunate, but at least it doesn't really get in my way. Alright, so now that you have this flap pulled up, you're going to collapse this arm in, just like that. And then you have this tab right there that's going to go right into that slot. And you're going to close that up. You should have an arm that looks something like that. Looks like maybe got amputated. Do the same thing over here. Make sure you're balled up in a fist. Open this panel up back here. Take your tool, push that through, grab that, open that up, take the fist, roll it around, do your best to try to get it lined up. Hopefully yours won't do that. And then collapse that shoulder in and tab that. So you should have two arms that look like that. And now we're going to turn our attention to this face. So you're going to lift this head up to the point where you disconnect the neck, pull this panel back right there, tuck the head away, and then bring that back up over around it. Alright, now we're going to turn the figure around and we're going to explode all this. So take this windshield, get it out of your way, lift this bumper piece up and bring it up. It's just sitting on a ball joint right there. So you're going to lift this up, do your best to get it out of your way. Then you're going to take ththese arms on that main hinge right there, bring those up, and then bring them up again at the shoulders. So you should have, I didn't mean to untab you. You should have something that looks like that. Now you're going to take these doors and you're going to fold these doors out. Make sure you clear that bumper. And then go ahead and unfold them one more time so you have the entire door assembly unfolded. Just like that. Take your windshield, make sure that the windshield is positioned like this, and now you have this entire little assembly right here. You're going to go ahead and you're going to pull this assembly up. Make sure that butt flap's down. Pull this assembly up, and then you're going to bring these down. If they come back up on you, that's fine. I'm not really going to worry about it right now, because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to bring these up. So this is going to make the roof of the ambulance. Now, one thing that's really important to note, see how I don't have that level? I don't have them sitting like this with these down. You don't want to do that yet. Don't do that. So keep your bar lights up and then keep these flipped up, because the next thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to swing these arms in right into this area. So take those arms, you're going to rotate them 180 degrees, and then you're going to swing them in. As you swing them in, note here you have slots and you have tabs right in there. And then up underneath here, you have these little tabs, and then you have these little slots. This is where it's not incredibly consequential for this. So it's just more of a minor annoyance. So swing those arms in, do the same thing over here, rotate that 180 degrees, bring that in, and then swing all these together. Use the ab crunch if you want to. I guess that would be a better view actually for the camera. So you should have something that looks like that, and squeeze those in right on those tabs. Now once you've done this, now you can bring these pieces down and then bring those bar lights down. And those bar lights are actually going to help you maintain this shape right there. So that's actually a pretty nice design. I do like that. Now you do have a spot right here for your weapon storage if you want to. So you could take your gun right now and put your gun in there. So that's where it goes. Otherwise, if you want later, you can just open this door up once you have him in his ambulance mode and then store that away. So it's entirely up to you, but that is where your weapon storage goes. All right, so now you're going to take this bumper, rotate that bumper around 180 degrees. You have this slot right there. You have those two little tabs right there. I think you know what we're going to do here. You're going to line these up. You're going to snap those in place, and you've got the front of your ambulance done. Now you're going to bring these doors. These doors are sitting on a double hinge right down here. So you're going to bring those doors forward. You have tabs. You have slots. Line all this up. Bring that down a little bit. Give that a squeeze. Shove that in. You've got one side done. Do the same thing over here. Bring that door assembly down. Shove that in. And then you have those two done. Okay. So again, you can see I do have a little bit of a gap right there, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not really going to get in the way of anything. It just annoys me. All right, so coming down here to the windshield, now you're just going to collapse all this in. Make sure you've got everything sitting as it should for the windshield. And I do get this wrong almost every time, so bear with me. There you go. So you should have, it just sits in there like that. You have these two little slots right there. They don't really lock in. It just drops in place right there. And as far as that configuration goes, you can see how everything is folded up in there. So when you fold that windshield, you should have kind of a Z shape in there. All right, so that is the top part of the ambulance completed. We're going to make our way down here to the legs. All right, so let's go ahead and spread those legs out a little bit so we can do some work. And we'll start on this side first. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take these. You have this area right here. You're actually going to pull this away from the rest of the leg. So give that a little bit of a pull. So you have a gap right there. That allows you to swing this around. So you should have something that looks like that. And then when you swing this around, you're going to tuck your foot away. So you're going to bring your foot up, and you're going to bring that toe up. And when you do, you want to leave a gap about like that. This gap is where the built-in combiner hand is going to fit in. So make sure you've got a gap right here. All right. So after you've done that, now you can open this little flap right there. You can see that was covering the hand. Take that flap and fold it in half like that. And now you're going to give this a pull right here at the calf. And that's going to disconnect that calf area right there. And then once you've got this, once you now have this disconnected, now you're going to take this entire assembly and you're going to rotate it 180 degrees. And make sure you get past that little notch down there. So you've got a 180 degree turn. Now you can see your ambulance is all kind of on the same plane. And now you're going to turn your attention to the inside right here. You have these sliders. You're going to take this assembly and you're going to slide this down on that assembly right there. Now you're going to take this hand. This hand is going to swing out like this. Sorry, I was getting a little fast there. I'm trying to slow back down. So the hand is going to swing out like this, and then you're going to swing this around. And this is what I was talking about with the gap. So your hand's going to go in right here. So you swing this out so you can reposition your hand. And you're going to bring it out like that, bring those fingers out, and then when you bring this back in, your goal here is to bend those fingers around and to get them tucked away up inside of there like that. All right, so then you'll notice if you look close, you have a couple of tabs right there that are going to align to slots that are in this. So you're going to line those up, give those a squeeze, make sure your fingers are in there, and then you've got a tab and a slot right here, and make sure that those come together like that. And now you can take, go straighten my knee out, now you can take this and collapse it on a double hinge, and then bring that together like that. Now, one thing that I'm going to do that I need to point out, I just do it at the end, is this upper thigh is on a slider, so you're going to push that in right there. So when you're in bot mode, it's out like that, and when you're in vehicle mode, it's in like that. All right, that way it lets these legs come together and tab in properly. All right, so you've got one side done. That's what it looks like in there. So for a point of reference. Now we're going to do the other side. Now the other side, I'm going to pull this out just to keep it out of my way for now. Now the other side is a little bit different, not majorly, but it's a little bit different because you've got a thumb to worry about on this side. All right, so let's go ahead and pull these out. Swing that out of the way. Take that foot, bring that foot in, collapse that toe, leave our gap approximately like that, and open this flap up, swing that piece down, pull this down on a slider. See that slider right there? So I was getting a little ahead of myself. I was trying to pull this down on the slider. Don't make the same mistake I was doing. Remember to break your calf right there. Now you can pull it down on the slider and you shouldn't have a problem. So sorry about that. I was having myself a moment. All right, now take your fist and swing that fist out just like that. And now you're going to rotate this assembly 180 degrees. Keep the rest of that out of the way. And this is where you have your foot and your gap. So you're going to swing this around and then unfold that hand just like that. Swing this around. Try to give you the best view here and keep it in frame. So swing that around, bring those fingers down, and then bring all that in together. And then collapse all of this, find your slots. There we go. Make sure your hand is tucked away. All right, so you should have something that looks about like that. Make sure you've got your slot collapsed back here. Make sure everything is squeezed together. Now, this is the thumb, so it's not as critical here, but it is going to be quite critical when you get into the combiner fist mode. So I'm going to fold this up right now, and then I'm going to show you, hopefully, show you something here that might be enlightening. So now you're going to go ahead and slide this leg in, slide that leg in, and then collapse this, and collapse this one. You're going to bring these together, and then you're going to line up all the slots, all the tabs. Give this a squeeze here. Close that back up. So make sure you squeeze together nicely there. Squeeze together nicely there. Squeeze together nicely here. And then you're just going to bring these together. So you've got tabs and slots. So you're going to line that up. Give that a squeeze. Push everything together. And once you've got everything nice and squeezed together and you're happy with it, we can say she is done. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully I didn't get in my own way too much, but there you go. There you have Medicus in his ambulance mode. So yeah, as far as masterpiece scale vehicle alt modes go, I think this one looks pretty good. It's not the best thing that I've ever seen, but I think with everything that you're going to be able to do with this guy, as far as the bot mode and having that left arm, you know, be all built in, which is kind of their trademark, I think they've done a really good job here of capturing a nice looking alt mode. I mean, this is a realistic looking Nissan Cherry van style vehicle. So, you know, job well done. Kudos to them on that. They've definitely won me over as far as that goes. So I want to throw them on the turntable, let you get a couple 360s of the alt mode before I started manhandling it here. But let's go ahead and bring him in. Take a look at the close-up here in vehicle mode so you can get a nice view of the underside and everything, and we'll go from there. Now that we've got that turntable out of the way, let's go ahead and bring him in for that close-up. And we'll start right up here at the front. So this is not an officially licensed vehicle, so you're not going to find any Nissan logos or official vehicle logos on there, but I think we all know what this is. And it looks pretty good. I like the silver that they used here, and that yellow and black look good. You've got that smoky, translucent windshield right there where you can kind of make some stuff out, but you can't really, which is pretty cool. The grill down there looks good. Coming over here to the side, you've got these soft rubber mirrors, so you're not going to break these off, which is nice. And they are somewhat reflective, or at least they have that reflective style look to them. And you got really nice looking wheels and rubber tires on this guy. So these are real rubber tires, which is cool. And the door handles all done up in the silver. Light bar looks good. Emergency. And coming around to the back, you've got tail lights. No brake lights. It's all just turn signal. And then got little license plate area. Windshield wiper right there. And you do have the tiniest little exhaust pipe sticking out right there. Kind of cool. Coming over here to this side, same as the other side. And then here he is from the top. Again, I like this light bar. I like the silver that they used. Looks really good. And from the bottom, so everything compacts away pretty good. If you didn't know you were looking at a robot, you'd never be able to tell from under here. So yeah, job well done. I think he looks really good. Now, the only thing he really does in this version or in this mode is roll. So, you know, not really a lot to talk about there as far as features. We already talked about the weapon storage. So the weapon storage is right here. If you forget while you're transforming him, you can kind of take him apart a little bit here and lift this piece up. And then you can pop this door right there. Come on, disconnect. There you go. So you can pop the door right there, and then you can throw the weapon in right there if you want to do that, and then close all that back up. Give that a squeeze. Close that windshield, and then pop all this back together. And yeah, look at that. Now you've got weapon storage, and he's still an ambulance. So that's really it as far as the features on this in this mode. But yeah, really well done. I think he looks good. So let's go ahead and jump into those comparisons and see how he looks in comparison to some other vehicles out there. Unfortunately, I do not have any Protectobots, original G1 Protectobots in my collection. So I'm going to sub in Brawl from the Combaticons as my G1 substitute to give you a sense of size comparison there to a G1 figure. Moving on to our next comparison, here's some ambulance on ambulance action. This is the Ratchet that we saw from the Transformers Prime series. And our next comparison here is a comparison between two sort of Nissan Cherry vans. This is the Studio Series 86 Ironhide. And for our final alt mode comparison, here we see what I think is the most relevant comparison. This is the Masterpiece Ratchet, or at least the knockoff version of it. It's the exact same thing, just the knockoff version of Masterpiece Ratchet. So you can see how First Aid and Ratchet would look together in that Masterpiece scale. And I think, yeah, he's a little undersized as far as the vehicle scale goes. I think in bot mode they size up a lot better. But yeah, you can see all those similarities there. So let's go ahead and get a couple of different views just because they are so similar in their alt mode, and I think this is really cool to look at. Here they are coming at each other head to head, and you can see, I think this view really gives you a good sense of that scale comparison. You can see how much taller Ratchet is than the First Aid or Medicus in this case. But I still think from a cleanliness standpoint, I think this is a much cleaner looking vehicle from the side. Here's a 3/4 rear view, and I think that Ratchet certainly wins the battle here. I mean, he's got that chrome bumper, more detailed taillights, you know, actual translucent glass in that rear window. So all those things, at least in my opinion, kind of give him that that leg up over Medicus here. Here we see them back to back. And for that final view, here they are coming right at us, and you can really see here the height difference, how much height Ratchet has over Medicus. But Medicus looks, for his size, proportionally, I think he's got a nice wide stance here, so a much lower likelihood of flipping over in a high-speed turn situation. That's going to do it for the alt mode comparisons. So what we'll do now is we're going to transform Medicus into that left arm of their version of Defensor. So let's go ahead and get him transformed into that left arm now. And what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to break him right here. Not, well, don't actually break him, but you know what I mean. Kind of give it that break right there in that mode. You're not going to do a lot with this upper body here. You just got a little bit of movement on that windshield, and we'll talk about that later. But once you've got that broken right here, now you're just going to take and you're going to crack him open right here, and then you're going to swing these legs back out like that on those double hinges, and then you're going to need to work in here, so spread them out a little bit. So your goal here, the object, is to get these hands out and in a position where, or get each of these halves of a hand out and in a position where they could be used by a combiner. So you're going to take this flap, you're going to lower this flap down right there. You're going to disconnect right here, so I'm trying to find the best view. Just gonna open that up like that, because what you're going to do now is once you pull that apart, then you're going to swing this out. And then you're going to use this tab right here to lock that back into place. So you're just going to put that right back in, lock it right into place just like that. And then you can swing this back in out of your way. It doesn't really lock in anywhere. It just kind of goes right there. All right. Now, one other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take this little flap right here, and you're going to want to put that tab in that slot right there. That's going to keep all this straight. So push that in and make sure you're good to go there. Come over here to this one, and we're going to do something similar. I'm going to go ahead and do this now and get it out of my way, just so I keep all that straight on me. And then bring that flap down, spread that open, spin this around, close that back up, close that flap up. And now you can bring these together, just like you had before. Give all this a squeeze, give that a squeeze up there. And then come down here, and you can see where those hands are at. You're going to give those a squeeze and make sure they all come together as well. So you've got a little tab and a slot in there. And then you're going to bring that thumb out. Put that thumb wherever you feel like it. Spread those fingers out. Do whatever you want to do there. And then you're going to come up here to the hood. Per the instructions, they want you to lift this hood up and bring it out a little bit like that. Okay? So for all intents and purposes, that's it. Now, you do have the ability to twist this, and then you're going to want to twist that. So that's kind of your final view or your final look there as far as that goes. And then just arrange that hand wherever you want. Spread that out. I did. Yeah, there we go. Move that. This is just trying to finesse it now. So the one last thing that you're going to need to do once you get him in this mode is you need to be able to combine him when we get all the guys, right? So in order to combine him, you're going to need to pop this out. So in order to do that, you're just going to bend this ab crunch until that little guy pops out right there. Get that out of your way. Bring that forward, and then you have your connector right there. Just go ahead and pull that out and then put this little piece back in. And then there is your connector. So if you can only imagine, it's sitting on a shoulder. And you have the ability to bend that elbow. You can bend right there. You can bend right here. You can do a little bit of a twist right there. You can do a little bit of a twist right down here if you choose to do so. And then down here at the wrist, you can spin this around a little bit. You don't get full range of motion, so you can kind of see that slot right there. So you've got that semicircular slot right there that gives you a few degrees of freedom for the hand. All right, and then of course you can move that palm out, you can move the palm in, and then you've got a ball joint there, and then you've got joints here. So fully articulated thumbs, fully articulated little fingers or big combiner fingers. So if you want to do whatever you want to do there. And come on, give me a natural look. There you go. So yeah, there you go. I mean, that's the hand. And it looks like he's going to be pretty good size. So looking forward to seeing the rest of the crew there as far as that goes. All right. So that is it as far as getting him into that left-hand combiner mode. Now let's go ahead and get him back into his bot mode so we can jump into those comparisons there. So you can take this down here and split all of this. Don't forget to split at the hand and twist this around. Split at those legs, and then you're going to want to tuck this away as well. So get this, bring this down, and then try to reach under there with your finger if you can. And if you can't, don't be afraid to use a tool. And then take this piece and shove that up in there, close that up so that's out of your way. Now we're going to concentrate on these legs again. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I know I'm going into bot mode, I'm going to slide these out. Right there. That gives me just that much more room to work. Alright, so if they haven't already popped out on you, take these flaps, flip these flaps down so they're out of your way, and then spread those legs out. So now here's where it gets a little tricky. Let's see, I'll do this side first because this side over here is the thumb. So let's do this side first and get all this stuff put away. So you're going to take this. Just go ahead and lift all that up, let all that swing out, and then you're going to push this out of the way, swing that around. Now you're going to refold these hands, so you don't want these hands out up here. You actually want these hands to be folded up so they'll tuck away up here under this. So take those hands, kind of give them a little bit of a fold. Make sure you've got them in a position where they will close comfortably up under there. Hopefully you've got something that looks like that. You can do a test slide. So if you do your test slide and then you catch on anything, then you know you got to move some stuff out of the way. So then it's just a matter of finessing. I'm sure there is an exact place to put these fingers, but I've found that if you just finesse a little bit, you'll be just fine. So slide that forward. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to get full closure there. So all good. All right, so let's go ahead and keep that slid forward. So you want your slider, you want that leg pushed all the way up. Take this and rotate this around 180 degrees. And then you're going to lock this in right there. And now you can take this little flap, fold that little flap like that, and then bring that up. And unlike me, if you're lucky and you push on this, it'll just stay closed. But I'm not too worried about it right now because I'm going to be flexing on this foot a lot anyway. So take your foot, bring the foot out, bring that toe out, and then bring this forward. And then you have a slot right there. It's going to correspond to this tab right there. And then you're going to collapse all this in. And make sure that your slot and your tab line up and everybody's happy. Give that a close, and then you've got this leg finished. So this leg is done. Let's move on to this leg. Now this one's the one I'm saying is a little trickier, just simply because you've got a thumb to worry about. So it's just a matter of getting that thumb tucked away as well. So just something to watch out for. So take this little flap, lower that flap down right there. Take this. It doesn't really matter. The order in which you do this is not the most important. The most important is just a matter of getting everything tucked away. So take that, fold that out, push on this a little bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to bump the camera. Move that back. And then swing this in. Now you can see, unlike the other side of the hand, you've got this thumb to worry about. So take that thumb, fold it down like that, and then take your fingers, give them little folds. And these joints are surprisingly tight. I'm really impressed. Come on. There we go. And then again, your goal is to just get everything tucked away nice in there, and I didn't get that thumb tucked away nice. So let's tuck away the thumb nicely. There. That's better. All right, now give this a test slide and make sure that will close all the way. There we go. Looking good, looking good. Flip this open and then close that up. And then Give that a push. Oops, gotta flip this around, don't we? Rotate that 180 degrees. There we go. Close that up. Bring that foot out. Bring this around. Tab slot. Close all that up. Get a nice snap. Bring that heel back. Bring that toe out. And don't forget to give these a push right in here. You've got that gap. Make sure those close up nicely for you on both sides. Otherwise, your legs will collapse at the calves. And then, if you're lucky, then those will go in just fine for you, and they'll stay. If not, they'll pop out like mine do whenever I touch them. All right, so there you have the legs ready, minus that little dude that keeps popping out on me. So now the next thing we're going to do is he popped out again. Whoa. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on this upper body. So let's go ahead and take that hood and pull that hood up and out of the way. Then we're going to open these doors up. So bring those doors all the way down, just like that. And once you've done that, take your bumper, pull on the bumper, go ahead and proactively rotate that around 180 degrees, since you know that's the way it's got to go anyway. And then take advantage of your ab crunch here, bring that down, and then that's going to give you easier access to grab these arms and pull them out. So you're going to take your light bars, you're going to bring your light bars up, then you're going to take these two little guys and you're going to flip these up a little higher than flat, and then you're going to grab your arms and give them a yank. Gun fell out. Totally fine. And this one is stubborn. There we go. All right. So swing these arms around. Bring those out. Go ahead and take those arms, rotate them 180 degrees that way so all this is out of your way. All right, now you can turn your attention to this little assembly right here. So you can, what you want to do is you're going to want to fold these down and then have these folded up. But something that I've noticed, it's just a slight clearance issue on mine. So get that out of the way. When I bring these down, I'm going to run into that right there. So what I've learned to do is keep these little flaps right here down just a little bit more, and then I can fold all that down and everything fits just fine. So make sure that's all collapsed away like that. So what I did, if you have these sitting completely like this, see how they hit right there? Well, if I just bring those down just a little bit, they clear just fine, and then I can collapse all that assembly. So just something I've learned in transforming this guy. Now take your door, fold your door in, fold that in, fold your door in, fold that in, and then take that windshield, just get it out of your way. Take this piece, fold it down right there. And then this is just a matter of lining everything up. Nothing really locks in back here as far as this goes. It's just a matter of getting that sitting in the best place. And you'll feel it more than hear it or anything. You'll just feel it. It just sits right. So this is the best way I can describe it. It just sits right when you're right there. And then fold your windshield up, and then it tucks away in the back. All right, so now you can turn your attention to the front. So get rid of that ab crunch. Shove that combiner piece back in if you push the ab crunch too far. So take that combiner piece and shove it back in there and close that up. Now you can bring your arms down and bring them down on the shoulder. I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of my way for now. So while you're here, since he wants to do it anyway, bring this flap down, lift that head way up, push this flap back down, close that, and then you've got the head. All right, so shoulder, there we go. Pull this little piece right here, and then extend all that out. Open your flap up right here, and then push right here. Get those hands out, close that flap, close this piece. That'll lock that in. You've got the one arm done. So now you go home. There you go. So bring this piece down, and all this came out because I was kind of squeezing, because this shoulder joint right here is so tight. This comes down easy, but then this piece, man, I got to crank on it. So I have a tendency to squeeze the rest of the figure when I do that. So undo this, bring that down, open up your flap, push right there, get your hand out, close that up, close this up. And then you have that flap. And then you have Medicus back in his flap, back in his robot mode. You thought we were done with transformation. Well, we weren't, because I forgot to do one last thing. Take these wheels and push those wheels up. There. Now we're done with transformation. Now we can get into those bot mode comparisons. For that first bot mode comparison, here we see Medicus next to the G1 Combaticon Combiner Brawl. Next up, this is Ratchet, as we saw him in the Transformers Prime cartoon. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the Studio Series 86 Ironhide. Here we see Medicus hanging out with another doctor. This is Masterpiece Ratchet. And for our final alt mode comparison, here we see Medicus hanging out with another Masterpiece scaled Protectobot. This is X-Transbot's Fuzz. This is their take on that Streetwise Protectobot figure. And you'll notice that you didn't see this guy in the alt mode comparisons. And that's because I don't like to transform him. He's not fun. I'm not going to do it if I don't have to. So eventually I will be getting the rest of the Mastermind Creations Protectobots, and we'll be going down that road. But Fuzz, he's just one of those figures that if I don't have to mess with him, I don't. And one last bonus comparison here, because he is so accurate to his cartoon self. Here is Medicus, aka Masterpiece First Aid, next to his cartoon self. So you can see just how close they got this to the cartoon. That's going to do it for the alt mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So there you have the Mastermind Creations Ocular Max PS-21 Medicus, their take on that Masterpiece Protectobot First Aid, and I do think that this is a very cool figure. This is the first Mastermind Creations figure that I have purchased, that I have in my collection, and overall I'm very impressed with it, and I'm very much looking forward to getting the rest of this Protectobot collection to make their version of Defensor. I think it's going to turn out to look really, really cool, so I think the hype is real for Mastermind Creations. Let's go ahead and dig into it a little bit, and we'll start with the overall looks of the bot, the aesthetics. Man, this guy is really cartoon accurate. I think that they captured it very well in both modes. Both modes look really, really good. I will say, I don't think he missed leg day. The legs are maybe slightly out of proportion and a little too big, a little too bulky in comparison to that cartoon version, but there's a lot going on down in those legs, so I'm going to give him some grace for that. But overall, absolutely gorgeous figure. Really like everything about him. Like him from every angle, so I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the articulation, it really doesn't get much better than this for the price point. I mean, you can do almost anything you want with this guy. He's incredibly stable. Plenty of ways to pose him. His shoulders are a little funky. I'm not the biggest fan of the design of the shoulders, but everything else is there. I mean, you've got great articulation in the head, in the shoulders, of course, even though they're weird. Elbows, wrists, individual fingers, waist, ab crunch. Hips are good, thighs are good, knees are good. Just not much to complain about here. And although those feet are kind of weird, I absolutely love the maneuverability with them. Everything from the ankle tilt to the individual movement of the toes and the heel spur and everything in between. You can really get this guy in some positions, and he will hold them for you because those joints are nice and tight. So I'm going to give a very rare 10 out of 10 for articulation on this guy. I think for the price point, you just don't get much better. Now, on the opposite end of that spectrum, if we go to the accessories, yeah, he comes with that little pistol. Great. I mean, I get that he's a doctor. I get that he's a pacifist, but you couldn't give us something else other than that? It's just lame. I don't know a better word to say. I mean, it's got cool weapon storage. I like that it folds. I like that you can keep it in the alt mode, but everything else about it, it's just lame. Additionally, I'm not the biggest fan of the way that he holds the weapon. Just that Masterpiece typical slot in the palm design, I think would have worked a little bit better than this L-shaped cavity that they used for the gun. So this is his weakest point for sure. I'm only going to give him a 6 out of 10 for accessories. Moving on to quality. This is where he's got a couple of issues as well. He's certainly not perfect when it comes to quality. I think there are a couple of tolerance issues here. I have issues, as you saw if you watched earlier in the review. I have issues with these panels right down here not staying tabbed in. I also have issues when you fold the hands in for the alt mode that this back panel won't tab in because the hand just won't get in all the way. So I have just a little bit of a gap there. Thankfully, these are not functional issues. They don't get in the way of the transformation. They don't get in the way of the overall looks. They're just an annoyance, and I really, really want them to work on those. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for overall quality here. Everything else is good. Paint looks good. The sculpt work, all that looks good. He came with the one thing that he was supposed to. He does everything that he's supposed to do. So 8 out of 10 on quality. Bringing us to our last bullet, which is overall value. Now, I'm going to be completely upfront and tell you that I think I picked this figure up on a pretty good discount. I picked this figure up on BigBadToyStore.com for $70 US. So they were running, they have these series of one-day sales on various items, and it just so happened one of the days that they were having those sales, they had this guy for $70, and I couldn't pass that up. I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity for me to dip my toe into the Mastermind Creations world. So that's what I did. This guy is absolutely worth every cent. Of course, he could always be a little less expensive, and I do think that for the price you pay, even at that $70 price point, I really would have liked to have gotten something other than a tiny little pistol. But overall value, I think, is there, perhaps even at MSRP, but ultimately that's going to be up to you. But I think that I feel like I got a heck of a steal at $70. So I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 for overall value. So that brings us to our grand total. Out of a possible 50 points, Medicus gets 42 out of 50, which puts him at 84%. As far as I'm concerned, this guy is an easy recommend. I'm so happy I picked him up. I think that if you're a fan of G1, if you're a fan of Masterpiece, if you're a fan of just well-made figures, I think this is going to be one that you're going to want to pick up. Perhaps even the rest of the team, but I can't speak on that until I see the rest of this team. So with that, that's going to wrap the review up. I hope you guys got some good information. I hope you got some entertainment out of this. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment if you feel like it. And if you could, if you know anyone that would appreciate our channel or our videos, please feel free to share this video, share this channel with them. It's always fun to watch the channel grow. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. Until we see you guys in the next one, take care.